See the chickens at work? They do a really good job. They're getting rid of these weeds, making the walkway easy to go through. Look at this. All this was totally overrun with really tall grasses. Chickens have come through here. First they trampled it, then they scratched it, all the way through. Look at that. Look at that. This was all covered in green. It's really nice actually, because they go through while they're digging up their little buggies. They're helping me out. Number one, I don't have to buy food for them because it's right here. That's like a really big thing. Number two, they're suppressing the weeds. They're working it into the ground. They're mulching. They're fertilizing with their own waste as they go along. But look at this. Look at this. Look at what they're doing here. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a trench there that they have dug. They dug a trench from one side to the other. It's a pretty deep trench too. That'll help keep the water in on this slope. I think what they did is they found my original shovel lines and then they just kept going on that. I don't know. There's another, I don't know if you see, there's like a dip there. There's there. There's there. There's another trench they dug there. There are dips here. I'm actually standing in a hole that they made here. So they're also creating these little pockets for water. So when it rains, those little pockets will hold more water and it'll slow it going down this slope. I think it's pretty cool. I'm loving it. So you're thinking, so how do I keep them out of my vegetable beds? Well, it's nearly impossible to keep chickens out of your vegetable beds. They absolutely love it. So what I did is I have a net that we can't really see unless you really take a close look. So it doesn't hurt the aesthetics, but it keeps the chickens off. Now, I don't just lay the net over it, because if I lay the net over it, then the chickens will just walk on it. So I have it held up here. It's like at an angle. See, it's tied up here at the top, and then it just goes down to the bottom. It's draped over. And that is what keeps the chickens out of these vegetable beds. And I don't care if they get in amongst the trees. They haven't seemed to touch that yet because, that's another thing. They haven't seemed to take an interest in the vegetable beds because there's all this stuff here. So that's already at their ground level. They don't need to jump up in order to get something. So they're more focused on what's going on down at foot level. So they're pretty good. You can tell the little pathway that they've trampled there amongst those greens. You might think, oh no, well, you know what? Those greens are going to come back. It's not a big deal. I was a little bit worried about the, whatever, that pumpkin, cucumber, whatever it is that grew up. And nope, it's fine. It's been a few days. It's still fine. And what's the worst thing that happens? I mean, it grew up on its own. I could lift it up. I could raise it up, but it seems to be fine. They're not bothering its roots or anything like that, so that's good. And it's so funny. Look at this. Look at this trench. Let's see. My hand is going down. See that? And in. Look at that trench. That's so nice. Like I said in an earlier video, it's important to have these little pockets that'll collect water. So over here, so they went through here, and the interesting thing is they scratched whatever, but it doesn't hurt the lupins that I planted. They didn't bother those either. It's like they only bother the things that aren't supposed to be there before they bother the things that do. I don't know. This happened last year also. So, for example, the lupins are fine. but the grass around the lupins is what they dug up. That's just very interesting to me. And over here, they dug all this. This had all kinds of grasses. You see, like, there are grasses over there, like all kinds of weeds and stuff. They just went to town on this. I mean, they really focused on this. And again, you see, I have the netting up, and so they can't get into here. And it doesn't hurt the aesthetics. And over here, the same thing. I also have the net. They can't get into it, but look. You see that? You see where they've dug around, scratched around, gotten the weeds up. And over here, they scratched around where the Louisa is. But as long as the plant is firmly set in the ground and the roots go down deep enough, the chickens are not really going to hurt it. So you go through here, and you see where they've started in over here. So they're kind of mulching in the grasses and the weeds as they dig. But I find it interesting where they choose. They choose normally where there's like loose soil to begin with. They did around here. Hold on. You see, they're right there at the rose bushes. And next to them. And next to that tree. You know, they've just started. Wherever they find maybe there will be buggies, that's where they go for first. And then they'll just eat the greenery as a snack along the way. Kind of. I mean, they need both. But they're not looking for my green plants. They are looking for the buggies. They're looking for the insects. And over there a little bit. So on this side they haven't worked so much. But on the other side, they've definitely worked a lot. So let's say you don't want chickens, right? You don't want chickens. Well, you know, you can always put a fence and a net over your yard and you can get quail. Quail are really good at also keeping the weeds away. This used to be all weedy, all jungly. And every time there's green, for example, there's green there, they'll just peck at it. They'll eat it until it's gone. There are little bitty grasses that grow up continually. It's gone. So they also like the green. It's gone. That plant, it's gone. So they like the green. And what I do also, in order to help make sure they've got the green in here to eat, they have their greens, is I throw in birdseed. And I let the birdseed sprout. And then they eat the sprouts. But they keep going back and keep going back. I'll show you. Because the sprouts are really hard to get rid of once they keep growing and in the right conditions. So they mow them down like grass, and then they just keep coming back. And you'll see that also over here, right there, that green spot and that green spot. So essentially, most ground birds are really, really good at keeping away weeds. And quail are quieter. They take less upkeep. Very pleasant. And you can keep them in a smaller space too. And if you want them to go out and eat your weeds and stuff, then you can always put them in a portable quail tractor. And then just move them around according to that. I haven't touched well, they did a little bit where my spices are. You can see where they did just a little bit, but they haven't done any damage to the spices. Now, I will have to keep an eye on the spices when most of the greenery is gone. When most of the weeds are gone is when they're going to start really attacking the vegetables and spices. So it's just something that I have to watch out for. I have to, throughout the winter, make sure that they don't finish up one area and another area very soon. For example, over here, today was the first time they started on this. I had them over here for the most part, and now I'm going to be directing them more on the other side over there so that they can clear that away. And then once that is pretty much, you know, somewhat done, then I will bring them back over here. And then you say, well, how do you do that? Well, I have a fence and I just fence this area off and they don't go into this area. Or I fence this area off and they only stay in this area. And that's how I do it. But they are fantastic weeders. I don't have to work hard, and because they're eating the ground and eating the greens, I can buy them less food. It's a win-win if you ask me. Until next time.